In this video, we're going to install this throttle body coolant bypass tube from Hybeck Automotive. Here are the instructions, and we're just going to go step by step. I've already moved the coolant hoses out of the way on both sides. Not one drop of coolant came out of the coolant hoses or these ports, which is kind of weird. But anyway, here is step number 1. Remove the throttle linkage cover, the OE fasteners drive with 7mm and T15 tools. This is the throttle linkage cover. There's one T15 screw right there, and then there should be two 7mm nuts right there and right there. Looks like one of mine is missing, which kind of sucks, but I'll go ahead and remove this nut and that screw to get this cover off. Cover is off. Step number 2, remove the throttle position sensor connector. Be careful with retainer clip. It breaks off easily if it has been exposed to a lot of heat. It looks like my clip has already been broken off, so I should be able to pull that off easily like that. There we go. Step number 3 says verify that the insulating grommet is on the power output post on the rear of the alternator. If the grommet is missing, the bypass line could cause an electrical short if it contacts the power output post. Looks like we're good. This is the insulating grommet on the back of the alternator. I just leaned on the instructions with my elbow and now they're all wrinkled, so sorry about that. Next step, feed the line under the plenum from the right side of the engine. The left side of the bypass line emerges through in the little space behind the 2 vacuum tubes that are on the lower left side of the plenum. Next step, make a final bend in the straight end of the tube after it emerges on the left side. Place a number 1 Phillips screwdriver in the tube and bend it toward the rear and to the left of the engine. Proceed carefully. Don't bend the line so much as to kink the tubing. Here's the driver's side of the tube, and this is the step that I'm most nervous about. Basically, I need to bend the end of the tube back towards the firewall. I pulled the tube out just to show you that it looks like the bend has already been started. So I just need to finish it off just like the instructions say. The final bend has been made, check it out. As you can probably tell, I didn't have to bend it too much to get it where it needed to be. There is a little indentation in the tube, but it's not kinked by any means, so the coolant should still flow okay. Here's a look at it back in the car, and this is about where it should sit. All right, the 7th and final step says, verify that the bypass line does not interfere with the throttle linkage at full throttle. A short and tight hose connection on the left will pull the hose rearward and away from the throttle crank arm. As of right now, it does not look like the tube will interfere with the throttle linkage at full throttle, but to be sure, I'll need to hook up the coolant hose. So that's what I'm gonna work on next. Before I can hook up the hoses though, I need to shorten and trim them. And once I do that, I will mock everything up and show you what it looks like. All right, I have everything mocked up and in place. This is the passenger side. I had to shorten this hose by a couple inches, and I think it's looking pretty good. As you can see right here, there's enough clearance so the coolant hose is not rubbing up against the EGR pipe. Here's the driver's side. I took a couple inches off of this hose as well, and it's looking pretty good. It looks like the coolant hose is in a good spot. It's not going to interfere with the throttle linkage at full throttle, which is good. So I think at this point I may make some final adjustments and tighten down the clamps. There is one tip I want to give as it relates to bending the tube. The instructions imply that you should bend the tube while it's in place under the plenum. I actually started to bend it while it was in place under the plenum, and that's how I got that little indentation in the tube. I kind of used the fuel rail as leverage to make the bend, and it started to dent the tube a little bit. So I removed it and was able to bend it outside of the car. And even after it was bent, I was still able to snake it back in place under the plenum. So hopefully that's a helpful tip for anyone who's doing this to their ZR-1. Here's the last paragraph of the instructions. I'm not gonna read it word for word, but essentially it says that in addition to keeping the throttle body and plenum cool, the bypass line will also preserve the finish of the throttle body, which is interesting. I never would have thought that that would be an added benefit of the bypass line. And it also says that if I'm gonna blow out the old passageway with compressed air, I need to do it from the driver's side. coolant in there was pretty dirty. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that shot and it was worth me getting this old dirty coolant all over my new iPhone. After cleaning things up a little bit, we're ready to put the passenger side cap on. These caps did come with the kit, which is nice. Passenger side done and driver side done. Now I'm gonna start the car, let it run for a minute and make sure there aren't any leaks. Okay, the car has been at operating temperature for a little while and there are no leaks, so I think we're good.